Can I please have a motion for item G1, amended action regarding policy 6471, school district
So
travel?
moved.
Second?
Moved by Dr. Cullen, second by Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, no, this is a roll call.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'd like to combine curriculum items H1 through H4.
So moved.
Anyone need
So
anything
moved.
separated out? Can I have a motion for that, please? Motion
So
by
moved.
Dr. Collins, second by Mrs. Shore. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item I1, can I please have a motion for construction change directive?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Shore, second by Dr. Cohen. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I'd like to call the board's attention to make sure that they saw the revised addendum with additional items under J and K, and also the personnel addendum. So can I please have a motion for items J1 through J7?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Philipsak, second by Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Motion
Motion
carries.
carried. Okay, under item K, again, calling the board's attention to the personnel addendum. Can I please have a motion for items K1 and K2, personnel action certificated and non-certificated
So moved.
staff?
Second?
Moved by Dr. Cullen, second by Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I please have a motion for L1, staff development, mentoring, and professional development plans?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Shaw, second by Mrs. Chu. Is there any discussion?
Reese.
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 Oh, Mrs. Reese. Sorry, not you, Reese. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Can I please have a motion for items M1 through M4?
So moved.
So moved. Okay.
I'm sorry, I meant through M7. Yes, thank you.
So
Motion.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Shaw, second by Dr. Cohen. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. Philipchak?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes, motion carries.